Is the American Bully public enemy number one?
Is the American Bully actually a dangerous dog?
Is the American Bully a dog that needs to be eradicated?
Is the American Bully a family-friendly dog? Or is it a public enemy number one?
That's the question today.
The UK now is going to ban all American Bullies. And we're going to discuss what makes the American Bully dangerous and what makes the American Bully an excellent companion dog.
If you're interested in having some knowledge on the American Bully,
I would advise you to watch this video. It's going to be long, but this is my opinion on the American Bully. Now you might ask, why is my opinion valid on the American Bully? Well, I'm a pit bull lover. They are my breed of choice. And I have trained tons of American Bullies. I have a video on YouTube showcasing a pit bull trained in protection. It's got like 19 million views on it with my channel. And I'm one of the guys that's well known to deal with these type of dogs. Over the course of 10 years since I've been training, I've seen a lot of bad and aggressive pit bull and American Bullies. They've come to me as the last resort on how to fix the dog. I have been a reference point to a lot of people with these breeds and been able to fix a lot of these breeds. But during that process, I've seen a lot of bad representations and a lot of dogs who should honestly just be put down because they are unstable. I have competed and titled in many different dog sports with different dogs. Pit bulls are definitely the dog of my heart. They're the dogs that I love, but I also own Dutch Shepherds and my own breed. So my opinion might be valid because I've trained tons of dogs, bully breeds in general, pit bulls, all type of breeds, but a lot of people come to me as the go-to guy when it comes to pit bull problems and bully problems. They feel that I have understanding of these dogs, which I do, but some of these dogs are just bred wrong. To really understand the American Bully, we need to understand the genetics, and we're gonna get into detail on all of that right here. I hope you guys enjoy this video. It's gonna be filled with lots of detail and my opinions. Anybody's opinion is their opinion, but my opinions are based on my observations and facts, and I'd like you guys to chime in the bottom in the comments and let me know if you disagree with anything. The problem is we need to discuss these problems. We have two sides, one that says the American Bully is aggressive and one that says the American Bully is the best dog ever. Both sides are wrong and both sides are right. The question is, what is the dog that you have in front of you and how do we get there? So let's take a deeper dive. To discuss the American Bully, we need to discuss the American Pit Bull Terrier. As the story goes, from the late 1800s, dogs were imported from Ireland as fighting dogs and England, and they were brought to America. These dogs were terriers and bull breed blends. There was a dog called the Blue Paul that by story was a gypsy type dog that the gypsies had, and they were fighting dogs. They were called the Blue Pauls. The American Pit Bull Terrier is comprised, from what history says, of the white hair terrier and the old bulldog. This was a bulldog that wasn't like the English bulldog. It was more like the American bulldog with a bigger head. These dogs were apparently fearless, very tough, and due to their name, probably used to hunt large game. So in my opinion, and based on research, the American Pit Bull Terrier to me, and you'll never hear this from anyone else because I've never heard anybody discuss it, but the American Pit Bull Terrier to me was a butcher's dog. There's a reason why American Pit Bull Terriers, even up to today, jump and want to hang off of rope and hang off of things. That is not the nature of a terrier. But if you look at the old pictures and the old, description, they were always hanging off of bulls. Now, why would a dog genetically hang off of a bull? If you're living in the 1900s and you had to slaughter a bull, what machinery and equipment did you have? You probably didn't have a lot of equipment. Dogs at the time were used as a utility. They were not pets that slept on the couch. They were not animals that we petted and walked around. These were dogs that we needed for work. We didn't have security system, advanced phones, cell phones. We didn't have satellites. We didn't have cameras. We had a dog. A dog would let you know somebody was around. A dog would get rid of pests. Terriers in general were used to get rid of rats. They still are used in that fashion today. and they're used to get rid of little predators. Terriers, or ground hunting dogs, would help to keep vermin away from your food source. Remember, we didn't have fridges in grocery stores we can go to. We had to store our food. And if rats or mice or anything got into our food, we're done. We're going to starve. This is not the life of luxury that we live today. This is, back then, a life of unluxury and misfortune. So the dogs had a purpose, and if they didn't fulfill the purpose, it was an extra mouth to feed. If a dog showed aggression, say aggression in an unlawful manner, the dog would be killed. But we had dogs that were protective. We had dogs that would take care of the kids and the family, and we had dogs doing all kinds of different jobs. So in my estimation, the pit bull at the time, in the early 1900s, was a butcher's dog. Now, when machinery came in, I'm sure that people stopped using the dogs. Now we don't have really a job for that butcher's dog anymore. And we didn't have a lot of entertainment. There was no Netflix. So people decided, let's bull and bear bait the dogs. Let's use the dogs on wild animals for entertainment. And that's what they did. They would catch bears, catch wild animals, and put the dogs on the bull and the bears. Now, if that dog didn't have the heart, it would die. That was natural selection. If the dog bit a kid, bit a family member, wasn't good at home, it'd get killed. If the dog got sick, it'd get a bullet in the head. There was no emergency vet back then. Life was rough. So we basically built survival of the fittest. All breeds, wasn't just the pit bulls. Now in 1930s, the Little Rascals, this is a reference I would use. Little Rascals came out in the 1930s. It was a show with kids and in that time period. And for some reason, there was a pit bull named Petey. Now, Petey looks like an American bulldog per se, but potentially he was a pit bull. He was always with these kids. And back then, we didn't have nice suburban areas with police driving around. We didn't have that kind of stuff. Why was this dog always with the children? If the dogs were deemed dangerous, why would they have that dog on the show? That was America's dog back then. So, was the pit bull a dangerous dog? Or did it become a dangerous dog? Well, from the looks of it, dog was probably a great dog. He was all over the show. And he was with little kids all the time. Why would he be with little kids all the time? Why would that show portray that dog like that? Possibly because back then there was wild animals. Even in modern times, foxes, coyotes, they still come to your yard, bears, they still come around. But a dog would defend the home, would defend the kids. And a dog like a pit bull would be a great dog to have around to protect children from wild animals, not necessarily people. Now that dog Petey in the show was friendly, happy-go-lucky, always with the kids, everywhere they went. Now, maybe that's just a show, but that show is a reflection of the time. Now, in 1936, I think the United Kennel Club decided to let the pit bulls be shown, but they changed the name to the American Staffordshire Terrier, from what I understand. At the time, dog fighting was illegal, and so was bull baiting and bear baiting. So the people that would fight dogs would do it underground. And that's where the distinction of the two breeds that were the same dog became different. If the dog was fought and won in fights, he was game bred. That's what the term game bred means. His ability to win, take a beating, and keep ticking, that he was a game bred pit bull and he would be bred to other game bred dogs to fight. Now, there was another side of people that didn't like to fight the dogs and they wanted to show the dogs and they loved their dogs. Not saying dog fighters don't love their dogs. I'm not into dog fighting. I don't like the idea of dog fighting. But I do understand the concept of breeding specific dogs to do a specific purpose. Now, dog fighting does have rules. It's not as barbaric as it sounds, but to me, it's not something I would do with my dog. I do not want to see my dog get hurt to prove that he's tough. There's other ways that I think I can prove that. And we don't live in a time where I need the dog to prove his toughness for my ego. But anyways, there was rules in dog fighting, and if the dog didn't want to fight, you could actually stop the fight. You could throw in the towel. The dog wouldn't want to fight, so you had your opportunity to take the dog out at that point. So there's actual rules. It wasn't just fight to the death. But there's people out there who are, let's just say they don't have good morals. Let's just say that. So if that dog was in a box fighting, there was a referee and there was two owners there and there was other people watching these fights. So we're talking about tons of people. Now, when dogs are fighting, they're in their mind, they're in their aggression, they're in a fight. Why is it that a judge and the two owners could go separate the dog, people could get in and touch the dogs, and nobody would get bit? Well, probably because the pit bulls didn't carry any human aggression. And there's a big difference between human aggression and a clear-headed dog versus animal aggression and animal dominance and social dominance. Okay, these are all terms that are very different. A Navy SEAL or somebody who's elite military doesn't just walk around and shoot people in the head. It's not really the way it goes. Most UFC fighters aren't running around punching people in the face. So the idea that a dog that fights or has gameness is dangerous is not really all cut and dry. A dog that has gameness, if put in a fight, will prove his gameness. But that doesn't mean he's trying to kill every dog. Most of the most dominant dogs I know are not really dogs that try to fight everyone. They're pretty relaxed dogs. But you could tell by their demeanor that if you play those buttons, you can open up a can of worms. So let's discuss some of the guardian breeds and their jobs. So the Mastiff type breed is a guardian breed. We have the South African Boerboel, which is the South African Mastiff. We've got the Fila Brasileiro, which is the Brazilian Mastiff. We also have the English Mastiff, the Dog de Bordeaux, which is the French Mastiff. We've got the Presa Canario, which is the Spanish Mastiff. We got the Dogo Argentina, which is the Argentinian Mastiff. And a myriad of other dogs. A Great Dane is also considered a Mastiff. Rottweilers are considered Mastiff type dogs too. Certain Dobermans are bred Mastiff style. And these dogs are generally more protective and more guardian style dogs. Now, what happened was people started breeding, I would say in the 70s and the 80s, people started breeding the American Pit Bull Terrier to Neapolitan Mastiffs. Neapolitan Mastiff at the time was a very human aggressive dog, very aloof, and from what I understand, a nasty Mastiff. Now, they wanted to take the tenacity and the terrier and the fighting spirit of the Pit Bull and put it into the Neapolitan Mastiff, or breed them together to get a different dog. That dog was called a band dog. A band dog is an American Pit Bull Terrier, fighting breed, mixed in with a guardian breed. But what happens is when you have decades of genetic breeding where you're breeding toward one style of dog and you mix them together, it doesn't always mix 50-50. You think that you mix this dog, you're going to get a tougher Mastiff, but no, you are mixing wires. You are putting wires together that shouldn't be together. So you have a dog who was bred, in my opinion, to not have human aggression, to a dog that's bred to have human aggression. And when those wires start getting connected, you start having problems with communication because those wires aren't supposed to be there together. You've got a dog who's got human aggression and you want the toughness of the pit bull, so you think you put the two dogs together and you're going to get this Mastiff that's on steroids. But what you get is a dog who's unclear, doesn't understand what it should do because it has been bred to not bite, and now some of the brain is telling it, okay, it's okay to bite. So you are essentially making dangerous dogs. Now, the people that own these dogs were specific people for the band dog, okay? These weren't like everyday normal Joes that were breeding these dogs. And the people that were owning these dogs at the time were probably not everyday normal dog people. But what happens is when you breed dogs, eventually those dogs get out and end up in family homes. Somebody sees a puppy that's cute and decides, hey, that's a great dog. Some of those dogs might have carried some of the pit bull temperament, and they were bigger, beautiful dog because they had the bone and the size of the Neos. And some of those dogs might have ended up more with the Mastiff side of temperaments. We don't know. But somebody must have gotten a few of these dogs that were scatterbred and then decided, oh, he was great. He was great at my house. Yes, that particular dog might have been a nice dog. Maybe he was a little protective, but he was beautiful. So they bred that dog. But what you're doing when you're breeding a dog is the genetics from behind the dog are also passing through. So even though your personal dog might have been a sweet, nice dog, the grandfather of that dog might have been a mean, nasty Mastiff, very human aggressive. And now you're adding some prey drive and mental toughness and pain threshold. So the unsuspecting owner of those puppies might have ended up with a killer. And if you don't have a training knowledge or a dog knowledge, that's probably not a dog you should own. Now, both of those dogs maybe in the 70s or the 80s were probably good dogs. So there might have been some consistent traits within the dog, meaning loyalty to the owner, no aggression to the owner, possibly, but there's no way to tell. Every year you can have a litter of dogs. And if you're talking about from 1980s to 2023, we have 40 years of changes that could have happened, 43. And at 1 litter a year, 12 years, 12 litters a year, times that by 43 years, a lot can change. Now, are the people that are breeding these dogs intelligent trainers? Are they people that understand dog behavior and genetics? Probably not. So what happens is some of these dogs probably shouldn't have been bred. It's unfortunate, but this is the case. So let's fast forward now to the American Bully. The American Bully, from what I understand and from what I saw growing up, probably started in the 90s, where people wanted the American Pit Bull Terrier, but with more muscle, more size, more of an intimidating looking dog with a more relaxed personality. But how do you get that bigger dog? How do you get the bigger frame? Well, you add in dogs like the Mastiff or the cousin of the Pit Bull, the American Bulldog. Now, even within the Bulldog, you have different Bulldogs. You have the English Bulldog, which is a short, stocky dog, very stubborn. You have the American Bulldog, which the two guys that started the breed decided that they wanted differences in each dog. So there was the Scott, and then there was the Johnson, and those were the name of the two men. And they both bred separately. I think Scott bred for more of a catch type dog, protective nature, strong, modern looking American Bulldog. And Johnson bred that dog to a St. Bernard to get more of the look and a more chilled out dog, from what I understand. So now we have American Bulldog, we have American Pit Bull Terrier, and we have Mastiff. And these dogs are getting added in different temperaments, with different temperaments, in different amounts, in different dogs. And what most people were looking for was to make a look, a nice looking dog. So you took the doors off of a Lamborghini and you put them on a Ferrari, and then you put a BMW motor inside. Well, how do you know what you're going to get? There hasn't been 30, 40 years of research and development. You haven't done that. What you did was you've taken parts from different things and you've put them together to make one thing. Not all parts are going to sync together. And the wiring of genetics in dogs is not as simplistic as people think, especially when you've been breeding certain dogs for a certain temperament and then you're mixing them together. You will get fearful dogs. You will get certain types of instability. And if you're not a trainer or a person who really understands dogs and knows how to control an environment, you will have mistakes happen. So this is where the problem starts arising. And as you guys can see, this is where the problem of the American Bully stems from. So if I'm making soup and you come over and I'm not eyeballing anything, okay? And I say, hey, come over for this great soup. I put onions, I put pepper, but I'm not really paying attention how much. You come over and it's a great soup. You loved it. It was amazing. Okay, the next week I say, come over, I'm making soup again. Not paying attention this time. I added more onions. I added too much pepper. Maybe less potatoes this time. What happened? It's going to taste different. It's going to sting different. It might have been too much pepper. Maybe you got diarrhea this time. This is the case with the American Bully. Everybody thinks they know what they're doing, and they don't know what they're doing. And this is very complicated, even for a breeder or somebody who's really understands dogs. You have genetics that are coming from dogs that you don't know about. So you get two dogs, and you might have met the parents. Well, did you meet the grandparents? Did you meet the great-grandparents? You don't know. There's kids out here that are born from two parents with brown eyes, and they end up with green eyes. And then when you check the family tree, you've got some recessive genes on one side, maybe 2-3 generations back. How do you think it happens with dogs? Especially when the original dog came from wolves, apparently, from other wild canines. So we have a problem there. And that is where the problem is you're mixing a fighting dog with a dog that has human aggression. Now, my interaction with Mastiffs over the years, and we're talking about perfect examples of the breed, okay? Not like random dogs. I'm talking about perfect examples of the breed that I've met. They've been very sensitive to their handler, very sweet dog, very nice dogs. I never thought I would want to own a Mastiff. No prey drive. Generally, they don't have prey drive. They don't like to chase balls. They don't want to chase anything. They're not chasing rabbits. They're kind of leaning on you all the time. They want to be next to you. Very sweet. You issue a correction or you yell at those dogs, and they're very sensitive. That's been my experience with Mastiffs, true to their breed. Now, if you're a stranger, big problems. There used to be dogs that if you walked in the house and the owner wasn't there to let you out, those dogs would never let you leave the house. That was a trait that some Mastiffs carried. Even some Rottweilers today carry that trait. You walk in the house, they'll allow you in. You're not allowed out unless the owner is there to let you out. Now, those are amazing genetic traits. But if you don't know that, you would say to yourself, why does my dog bite everybody who wants to leave? Something's wrong with him. Maybe he's crazy. Well, think back to the early 1900s. What if somebody came into your house? What if they're trying to steal something? They can't get out unless you allow permission. Think about that. That's an amazing trait. But when that gets mixed in with this and mixed in with that, guess what? A lot of dog attacks are when you try to walk away. Sometimes that's from dominance. Sometimes that's saying, okay, you're scared of me, I'll take a cheap bite, cheap shot. Well, these traits, they come around and they get into different dogs, and they're in the American Bully, they're in a bunch of breeds. But this is the point. They were perfect for the specific nature of the dog they were bred with. But when you start mixing these traits, now you start getting traits out of nowhere. It's like that soup. You had the soup once, it was amazing. You come back for the same soup, horrible. Were you going to try it again? Who knows? It has to be consistent. A breed is a breed because of consistency. Form followed function and character. The dogs became a look because of their function first and character, not the look first and then the brains. That's not how it worked, okay? So if you look at a Jag Terrier, or you look at like a Patterdale, they're extremely versatile hunting dogs. They're little, but they're tenacious. A Jag Terrier the size of a Mastiff would be a killer, but they don't have any human aggression. I've never seen a Jag Terrier human aggression, but I've seen Jag Terriers that will kill any animal on the yard. And I know of a Jag Terrier that the owner took into PetSmart. The dog was from working line, and he saw one of those little fluffy dogs, and he killed the dog right in the store. It's a different type of dog. Those dogs were not meant to go to PetSmart and sleep on the couch and cuddle and watch TV. Those dogs were meant to kill rats and rabbits and things that will damage your crop. That was the job. That's their job. They're independent thinkers. And these are all things that we need to take into consideration when we're talking about dogs. They're all bred differently. Now, the Pitbull is a bull breed mixed with a terrier. So hunting dog with the toughness and some of the stubbornness. But when you start adding Mastiff in, you start changing the dynamics. When I train a Mastiff and I train an American Pit Bull Terrier or a Terrier, a lot of the dogs are very different. There's different things that I have to do to bring out certain traits out of the dog. A Mastiff, I might have to train at a certain age because they mature differently. A Mastiff at 2 years old is still a baby sometimes. They mature at that age. Whereas a Terrier at 6 months is kind of already who he is. Very confident, very loving, sweet. You'll have a Mastiff that all of a sudden at 2 years old, he starts acting weird around people. He starts barking at people when last week he was fine. Well, that's because he's maturing. He's turning into a man. Nothing wrong with that. That's the job of a Mastiff. But we in society don't understand these dogs. We don't understand these breeds. And we think everything needs to be nice looking and we don't care about everything else. But when that dog grows up and that dog is unsure about certain things, we don't know how to direct the dog because we don't know anything about the breed or training or behavior. So this is where the problem of the American Bully stems from, is people are breeding dogs that look a certain way. Now, we can analyze the dog, the American Bully, which comes in 5 or 6 different variants. Micro American Bully, XL American Bully, regular American Bully. I don't know what other American Bully there is. But if you've noticed, it's usually the bigger dogs that have the issues. Now, that would make sense, wouldn't it? Mastiff, bigger dog, human aggression, prey drive from the pit bull, mental toughness, not wanting to quit, dominant. That would make sense. There you go. And we're also forgetting about the American Staffordshire Bull Terrier, which is probably in the shorter versions of the American Bully, the Boston Terrier, the French Bulldog, and we've also got the Bull Terrier. So if you look at the shorter versions of the American Bulldog, if I had to guess, I would say there's more French Bulldog, Boston Terrier, Staffordshire Bull Terrier, and I guess English Bulldog. And that's where that look goes. But those dogs generally don't have any human aggression. So that would make sense that those dogs carried a lot less of a risk with human aggression, wouldn't it? Because there's probably a little bit of Mastiff in there, but not a lot of the Mastiff. So these things, when you actually look into it, a lot of these concepts will make sense. I want you guys to think about this and say to yourself, if you are the owner of American Bully, or even American Pit Bull Terrier, that, hey, what this guy says makes sense. Now, if you look at game dogs, fighting dogs from the 1940s, 50s, even to the 80s. There wasn't many red dogs being fought. There wasn't many champions that were red. A lot of the dogs were buckskin and black. Where did this red color come from? Well, Ireland had some hunting dogs that were red, that they say the red nose came from. But some of these red noses that I see resemble the color of a Dog de Bordeaux. And they have big heads. That red color, big head. I wonder if there's Dog de Bordeaux in those dogs. Where was the red? If a pit bull, most of the fighting dogs were black and buckskin, where'd the red come from? We don't know all the details. Nobody knows all the details because people lie, and this is all throughout history, and people don't tell you the truth. If you had an aggressive dog and you had puppies, but you knew that telling people that the dog was aggressive would limit you to sell puppies, would you tell people? I mean, me personally, my morals, yes, I would, definitely. I wouldn't even have the breeding. But there's people out there that don't really think about what the future is. They don't think about your kids or your family. They only think about the dollar. And this is where the problem of the American Bully is. So when we're breeding for a look and all these different colors, merle and all of this, that's not a color that's natural. And you start breeding for a look. Say you breed 10 dogs with that look. Now you're breeding dogs kind of with that temperament. So one dog with aggression in that look could potentially taint all those dogs with that color. What if that dog had a screw loose? Well, they chose the color over the screw loose. Imagine you had a beautiful girlfriend or a handsome boyfriend, but he was crazy and he tried to kill you. Is it worth it? Probably not. Probably not. So we need to take all these things into consideration, and we need to really think about which side we're on, because there's people out there saying that the American Bully is the best dog ever and the most friendly. Your American Bully might be like that. Not all of them. And then there are people that are saying that the American Bully is dangerous and needs to be euthanized, and pit bulls are dangerous. Not all of them, okay? And unfortunately, we can't bash either side because every side has an experience. If my experience with an American Bully was a bad one, then in my head, I'm potentially going to be scared of the dogs. So we can't be going around telling people, hey, you're an asshole because you don't like my dog. What if their experience, what if they lost a child? What if their neighbor got ate up by an American Pit Bull Terrier? We can't really say that, they're wrong. They have their opinion based on their life experience. If every Chinese person I met did karate and kung fu chopped me in my neck, I'd be wary of Chinese people. If one American you met somewhere and you weren't American and they were mean or rude, you would think all Americans are like that. So on both sides, we have valid points, but on both sides, we need to keep a conversation and keep an open mind to really understand what's going on. The problem here is not, oh, it's the owner, it's not the dog. No, that's bullshit. It is the dog and the owner. But if the dog's got a screw loose, it ain't the owner. It's the dog. I have great people that have bought these dogs with great intentions and have spent money with me to train. And the dog's got a screw loose. And we've tried to straighten it out. And I knew that there was a screw loose. But I said, listen, this is the dog you have. You have to manage this dog. This is not a dog that you could just walk around with and not pay attention. But I know you love the dog. This is what the framework needs to be for this type of dog. And sometimes in the end, they got to put the dog down. We can't think with emotion. We have to think with logic. And I know we all think with emotion. I love my dogs too. But if my dogs were to do something or I was to see a trait that I didn't like, unfortunately, maybe not put the dog down, but I definitely neuter the dog. But my dogs are not nowhere near that. But if you're a breeder and you see aggression, you need to really think about what you're doing, because you are destroying people's lives in the future. Somebody's going to pick up that puppy and fall in love. And then their whole lives are going to be destroyed because of your choice for genetics, because you wanted some money in your pocket. That's not good. That's not good morally, and that's not going to help the situation. So essentially, what the American Bully is a cocktail of ingredients that we don't know. So basically, you have a cocktail of different temperaments, all getting intertwined together. If those wires in the brain aren't connected properly, you're going to have problems. And this is where all the problems lie, in my opinion, in the American Bully. Now, if you have 4 or 5 generations of dogs that were specifically bred a certain way, and you haven't seen any issues, we could start eliminating inconsistencies. But are people doing that? Every time you outcross a dog, you change the dynamics and the genetics. Even if the person tells you, oh, the dog's a great dog, the dog's a good dog, how do you know? Did you live with the dog? Were you a trainer? Did you see the temperament changes with different environments? What did you see? What did you notice? Did you go through the life with that dog from puppyhood to adult? Did you see the changes between a year to 2 years, to 2 years to 3 years, and the maturity? If you didn't, then you probably don't know enough about the dog to breed the dog. It takes a few generations to get consistency, and you have to be breeding within certain guidelines if you want consistency. That's where I see a lot of these problems. You have different breeds bred for different purposes, and you're trying to stick them all together. And even though you might have liked the dad or you liked the mom, you're forgetting that there's 20, 30 dogs behind each dog that you're breeding. At a minimum, you need to see the parents of the dog you're looking at. There was a story of a little girl recently that went to go look at a litter of puppies with her parents. And the breeders, so-called breeders, said, bring your kids, they can meet the dogs. When the parents were let out, one of the parents, I don't remember if it was the mom or the dad, mauled the child. The question is, was the dog aggressive? There was puppies on premises, so that would give some protective instinct. But were the breeders, they didn't understand that? Were they not thinking about it? Or did they not understand their dog or know their dog? This is exactly my point. You have people breeding dogs that don't understand. They told the family to come look at the dog. They told the family, bring the kids. Poor girl got mauled. This is not good. It's not good for the breeding. It's not good for the family. And this could cause a ripple of repercussions all over. Dogs need discipline and structure, regardless of genetics. The better genetics, the easier it is. The better the genetics, you know what you're doing, because you know what the character of that dog will be, and you know what you're supposed to be getting into. When you don't know what the concoction is, you don't know what to expect. And if you don't know what to expect, it's not a good thing, right? If I know I have a Dutch Shepherd, I know that he's going to be aloof with people. That's how he should be. If I know I have a Cane Corso, I know, a Cane Corso, I know that he should be aloof with people. I know that if somebody comes into my house, there's a potential that he will defend my property. The problem is the American Bully is set to be a family-loving dog, and we don't have enough history and proper breedings to say that this is a character of the American Bully, the XL American Bully. But like I said earlier, the XL versions are going to be more Mastiff. They look more Mastiff. They have bigger bone, bigger body structure, and you can tell that there's more Mastiff in there. So genetically, they are going to have guardian instinct, some of them, depending on how those wires were crossed in their head. In order to prove that the dogs have a certain temperament, you need to put them in uncomfortable situations and take them into different environments at different ages. Sometimes dogs have a fear period, they go through the fear period, and then they get over it. You usually will know what the dog is like at the age of 3, 3.5, especially in guardian breeds that mature late. So if you don't take the dog to do training, and you don't take the dog to uncomfortable situations and put them in situations that are abnormal, then you're setting yourself up for failure. If the dog's always in a certain environment, when the environment changes, how do you expect them to react? They don't know how to react. So this is very important when you're testing a dog. So now you know why the American Bully can be unpredictable. You have different ingredients, different sauce. The sauce is not going to taste the same every time. Sometimes it might be hot, sometimes it might be mild, sometimes it might be neutral, sometimes it might be salty. This is the sauce that we're prepared by because breeders lack training knowledge, breeders lack knowledge in general of dogs' temperaments, and breeders are breeding for a look. And temperament doesn't always go with a look. And if they see something they don't like, they'll disregard it and still breed the dog anyway because they'll think it's not that big of a deal. For instance, when a dog is fearful, they bark. If a dog barks, it looks like he's protective. People see a dog barking when you walk in the house. If they don't know what they're reading, they're going to say the dog's being protective. He's protecting the house. That's a great dog. Fearful is not a good trait to have. A fearful dog that's barking out of fear or potentially not confident, he's unsure, that bark is reflection of being unconfident. And you are breeding an unconfident dog. But to a breeder or to somebody who's not knowledgeable, that dog is a protector. He's a good dog. What happens if the bad guy actually comes close to the dog? What happens if he puts pressure on the dog? Does the dog actually defend the home? Well, there's videos on the internet that show these dogs don't protect anything, they run. So is that fear a good thing? Fear can have problems. You don't see Navy SEALs running down the street shooting people in the head. It's always an insecure, some kind of lost soul that will do stupid shit, right? Confident people generally don't do crazy things. The maturity of the dog also is a big part of how they act. If they're a puppy and they're fearful, depending on what kind of fear, because they've never seen the situation, then that's okay. If they're a grown dog that's fearful because they haven't seen the situation, because they haven't been socialized, that's also okay. But if they're a dog that's fearful in general and they've seen the situation, that's a problem. Some of these can be fixed with training, some of these can be fixed with socialization, and some of these are just genetic nature of the dog. And we need to think about all of these things and honestly ask ourselves, does this make sense? Does it not make sense? You know, who's at fault? Are we putting people's lives in danger? This is something we need to think about. And anybody who is watching this that's a breeder, you need to put your morals before your pocket. This is not a money thing. This is a moral thing. There's people that have lost their children. There's people like me that defend these dogs, and we have to deal with bullshit because of shitty breeding. And I'm sure anybody that potentially is watching this video would never want something to happen to their family, and then, to make matters worse, lose their own dog that they love. Regardless if your dog's bad or good, or your child's bad or good, you still love them. You don't want anything to happen to them. So this can be eliminated by breeders. That's where the number one fault is, and breeding knowledge. So we're going to be watching some videos together here, and we're going to discuss what I see in these videos. These are reporters and homeowners that talk about the dogs and the bully ban, and we'll discuss what I feel about the conversations that they're having about the bully ban. The first video here is a behaviorist that has done dog behavior for 20, 30 years. He said he's dealt with these dogs for 20, 30 years. The American Bully hasn't really been around like that for 20, 30 years, but I guess he's referring to the Pitbull. And the Pitbull, I guess, when it was mixed with Mastiff band dog, technically is an American Bully, so that must be what he's talking about. But he's discussing the American Bully here, and he makes a statement saying that these were dogs that have been fighting champions that were bred. I beg to differ. I don't think these are fighting champions. I don't think anybody who's breeding an American Bully is fighting their dog and at that picking champions to breed, okay? This is not about fighting champions. This is mixing a dog that's mentally tough to a dog that has natural guardian instinct and prey drive. And there's a reason why they were separate breeds in the beginning. You put them together and you can have potential problems.
I want to speak to Stan now because you're a retired dog behaviouralist. You were also an expert witness during the Dangerous Dogs Acts of 1991. So listening to that, I just want to gauge what you feel about it. Is it bad breeders? Is it bad owners? Or is it bad dogs? We've heard arguments for all three.
I think it's a bit of all of them, Holly. The XL Bully is probably the most dangerous dog breed I have ever seen or worked with. And I've been dealing with them for 40 years. The bloodline is from fighting champions. These fighting champions have got something called gameness in it. It means that they will fight, but they will fight to the death. Just beating something is not enough for this. They've got to kill it, which is why in the last 3 years, 75% of all deaths in this country have come from attacks from XL Bullies. Now, you've got Chris there, who's an owner and a trainer. I'm sure Chris knows that over the last 3 years, 3 professional dog handlers have been killed by these dogs. One of them, a guy called Adam Watts, he was an amazing dog behaviorist and trainer, and he rehabilitated bad dogs. His wife unfortunately died 6 months before from cancer. He had 6 children, and he went to work with this XL Bully, working with it, and he killed him within about a minute and a half. This is an incredibly dangerous dog. I don't think the Dangerous Dogs Act and banning this breed, just banning this breed, is going to do any good, because it hasn't done since 1991. Why is it going to do this time? We need a whole new look of what we're going to do, and it cannot be related to breed specific, because BSL, breed specific legislation, means exactly that. And as as Linda mentioned earlier on, this isn't a specific breed. It's a crossbreed. It's a group of Mastiffs with a base on it, and the base on it is the American Pitbull Terrier.
So, in general, I disagree with what he's saying, that they come from fighting dogs or fighting champions, because generally, from the history, fighting dogs do not have human aggression. They shouldn't have human aggression because they were in a box with multiple people around, and their job was to fight dominance with another dog. It wasn't to bite people. These are very different.
It's awful what has happened, but they're not just, it's not that breed. It's not just that breed where there's attacks going off. Obviously, what has gone on recently, it is about the XL Bully. However, there is also other stories that are out there as well. Obviously, I don't feel it's right for all of the XL Bully breed to be banned when it isn't just... like, my dog has done nothing wrong, so why should he be muzzled? Why should he be banned when he hasn't done anything to anybody?
He's done nothing wrong. Elisa, he's done nothing wrong. The point is that this is what people are concerned about. Of course, he's done nothing wrong at the moment. We take your word for that. Absolutely. He's a good dog at the moment. But they're like ticking time bombs, aren't they? And if they blow, watch out. They are so dangerous once they've lost control.
I strongly disagree with that.
Go on. Go on.
I'm sorry, I strongly disagree with that, because that's any breed.
Any breed can switch.
That's any breed.
So in the second video here, a couple look like nice people. They have children. They have a nice dog. Dog looks like he's young. So at that point, he's still not an adult, and he's not finished maturing, so he can change. And what I see here is people that love their dog, but are ignorant to the fact that the dog potentially can be dangerous. And I say that because maybe it's for this video, but they have a harness on the dog that looks loose. They have a leash on the harness, and then they have a flat collar that looks like Velcro. Now, Let's say that this dog was to lose control. Where are they going to have control on this big dog? So that's my first issue with this first video. That dog should have a choke collar or potentially a pinch collar or something that can offer more control if something does go sideways. Because the way the dog is dressed for this scenario, if he's walking down the street with that harness and another dog runs up to him to start a fight, there's going to be a big problem. You have no control on that dog. That's my first issue with this second video.
With that?
Go on. Go on.
I'm sorry, I strongly disagree with that because that's any breed.
Any breed can switch.
That's any breed.
Nick, why did you decide to get the American XL Bully? What was the reason that you chose that breed?
Because I seen him, I liked him. Obviously, he's a great family pet, and I wanted to take him home. I took him home, and he's made an absolute fantastic member of the family.
How much does he weigh?
He weighs roughly about 38 kg.
And you have, I mean, he looks bigger than that, to be fair, but I mean, if you say it's 38 kilograms.
He is due to be at the vets. He is due to go to the vets in a couple of weeks.
Is he fully grown?
So
is he fully grown?
I don't think he'll get any bigger than that. If he does, it'll be only literally a little bit. But yeah, he is as big as he'll get.
I mean, when we see
obviously you can get different sizes.
Yeah, you've got two children, two boys, I think 10 and 6. And we can see a lovely interaction there between your sons and the dog. I can't deny it makes me nervous to see a dog of that size and strength around children. I had my own interaction with one of these types of dogs and was very concerned about children in the area. It was out of control in a public place. Why are you so confident that you can allow the dog to be around your children?
Because I also have another dog as well, who is obviously a completely different... She is a mixed breed. She is the complete opposite to Tank. She's very bouncy, full of life. Obviously, I know at the moment he is just... he's a bit nervous and a bit eager as to what's going on in the living room. But as soon as we got him, he settled instantly. He's never turned on my kids. He's never turned on other people's kids. He's just always... He's been very loyal since we've got him. He's been very loving.
Elisa,
we do say he's
so often,
like a big teddy bear.
But Elisa, so often... I'm sorry to say this, but so often when you hear these terrible stories of children who've had their faces ripped off by dogs of that particular breed, the owner says it never happened.
But you've had that.
Hang on, let me finish the question, Nick.
Well,
the owner says it never happened before. Up until now, the dog was a lovely family dog. We had no concerns. And then the dog turns, and it can turn on a dime. It can turn from the tiniest of reasons. Hand on heart, both of you, hand on heart, are you not at all concerned that this might go badly wrong?
No.
I'm not, because he would not do that.
No, I don't.
It's not just because of the breed. You should be looking at the owner of the breed, how they bring the dog up. And I will strongly say that it's on any breed. It's how you bring your dog up. If you bring your dog up in a loving family, the dog's going to be in a loving family. If you bring your dog up to be rough and nasty, then it will be rough and nasty.
We've had our dog, when we've been away, we've had people come and sit the dog that obviously do not live in our household, and there's never been any issues. In fact, everyone's always saying how loving he is.
Now, clearly, the government takes a different view. They have effectively demonised your dog, and as a result, new purchases will be banned, and you will have to muzzle your dog. And are you aware of the other restrictions that are going to be placed on your family member as you deal with him?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't fully agree with the muzzling side of it. I mean, like I've said, obviously, I've got another dog as well. It just breaks my heart that I'm going to have to take both of my dogs on a walk and one's muzzled and one's not. I mean, obviously, if they're going to bring that into place, then rather than
Personally,
obviously...
they should bring all big dogs should be muzzled.
Yeah, because it's not just our dog that, you know, that has been in the news. There has been other dogs that have been in the news as well. Previous. However, I think if it is going to be a thing and they are going to say about muzzling, then why not bring big dogs to be muzzled? It's not even that. I mean, little dogs.
Let's bring our expert in. Pippa, we've deliberately given them a good run. Yeah. We didn't want to cut them off. We didn't want them to feel that they hadn't been able to make their arguments, but also we didn't want their children there because we were going to be speaking quite frankly about what these dogs are capable of. Now, you've heard them. You've listened to them. What do you think?
I think, I mean, lots of dogs can be very loving family dogs. I do totally agree it's the hands that these dogs are in. But equally, these dogs have been bred for their strength, for protection, and they're a super breed. And they're not even a breed. We don't actually know what they are made up of. Exactly as you said, we've now got Pitbull semen that's coming over from America and being put into these breeds.
The Pitbulls are banned.
Pitbulls are banned, but the semen...
is not.
Yeah, exactly.
So it can be used to...
Super breed. And I think, ultimately, the whole industry needs reform. It's not about their dog, it's not about individual dogs in the paper.
No, but this is about specifically the ban on this XL bully dog.
Yes.
So what will that family have to do with Tank, their dog, as a result of this ban?
So have to be muzzled when out, have to be castrated, and I believe all the dogs have to be registered. We don't even know how many are in the country. You know, it's been 10 decades... one decade now of the bully.
Do you think, as an expert, that Tank is safe?
I wouldn't say that any American bully is safe. No. And I think a muzzle is absolutely...
When they say that they are great owners, and I'm sure they are, they're loving and gentle and thoughtful owners, and they've had no problems at all with the dog.
Yeah.
Are you in any way reassured by that?
I'm not reassured, and I'm not reassured because breeders of this breed are not regulated. There is no definitive training for people to have this breed. All this breed should mandatory have training when they have as a puppy, but we just need much more regulation across the whole industry because at the moment they're being bred and we don't know what's out there. We don't even know how many are in the country.
Guys, what Pippa's basically saying to you as an expert in her field, and she does know what she's talking about, what she's saying is that what you've got there is an unstable explosive. And at the moment, it's fine. Nothing's happening.
No, I strongly disagree with you on that.
But because you don't know of the specifics that have gone into the breed, you cannot know that the dog won't blow up one day.
I know my dog.
OK.
But they're bred for protection, and it might well be that your dog is absolutely fine with them, but it's the instances of other people coming into the house, the instances of things happening outside, are scary incidents. You know, it's not these things that we can't...
No, he's absolutely friendly with anyone that comes in the house.
To be fair...
We've just had a cameraman come into our house with a sound guy, and he's done absolutely nothing. He's never met any of them before in their life.
He's just intrigued with all the...
interested in what's going on.
Yeah, with all the cameras.
Yeah, but he could be absolutely fine, but it's all the others that we don't know what has gone into their breeding. We don't know if the owners had any training. There needs to be responsible dog ownership out there. Yeah. There needs to be mandatory training for all these dogs. We need better punishments under the Section 3 of the Dangerous Dogs Act for people who do have dogs. And we need people to understand about dog behaviour a lot more, the whole industry.
Nick and Alicia, before we let you go, what would you like to see? I know you've launched a petition.
So the reporter is being a reporter here, and he's just being kind of rude. It is their family, so they are going to get defensive. But there is a lack of understanding and ignorance on both sides. The reporter is saying the dogs are dangerous, which is a trigger to somebody who owns the dogs. I get it, but you need to think logically. So the response is they should ban every dog because every dog's capable. Unfortunately, not every dog has the genetic makeup to have high pain threshold, the drive and the desire to not quit, potentially, and added human aggression, okay? So right then and there, you see the family is a little, I would say, ignorant to the fact of what the dog's capable of. I'm not saying the dog is bad. I'm not saying the family is necessarily wrong. What I'm saying is, if this is the average owner of the American Bully, I understand why the opposite end would like to see them muzzled and under control, because they don't really have control on this dog. The next part of this is the owner says, I saw him and I fell in love with the way he looked. Okay, where was this conversation about the temperament of the American Bully? Where was the conversation about I met the parents and the grandparents and they were great family dogs, and from what I understand, that's what I knew, they were well trained. None of that. I saw the dog, he was beautiful, I liked the way he looked. You could see a girl, she could be beautiful, you love the way she looks, and then you find out she's crazy. I mean, it's not far-fetched, is it? You can meet a man, he could be amazing, look great, good looking, and then he's a psycho. I'm sure a lot of serial killers were like that. So you got to use your head. You got to be logical. Can't think with emotion. This has to be logic. The other issue I have here is he's brought up in a loving home. He should be loving. We don't do anything aggressive with him. I'm sure a lot of serial killers were brought up in loving homes with good parents. I'm sure not everybody has a story where they had problems. So the idea of only love and a dog with super love, I mean, this is the biggest issue that I find with people.
Is that they say it's all about the owner and the environment.
No, it's not about the owner and the environment. There's kids that are grown up in the perfect parents, perfect situation, and they end up in prison. Was it because of the parents? Was it because of the environment? Or was it just because of the kid and the situation? So the idea that he was brought up in a loving home doesn't mean much to me. What needs to happen is the dog needs to grow up in a home with discipline, structure, and love. But discipline. There needs to be rules and boundaries, not just love. No relationship is just love. It's based on love and respect and boundaries. These dogs need to have boundaries, which means they need to be trained, and they need to know when and where. If the dog was trained and he had a clear head, he would understand this is not allowed or this is not wanted, or you would have saw that behavior before. So the idea that he's brought up in love, in a loving area, in a loving family, a loving environment, that doesn't tell me that something couldn't go wrong. That tells me that there's potentially something that could happen because it's all love. And love can be a problem. Over-loving your dog and not putting ground rules could end up in problems. Now the UK ban will require a muzzle, registration of the dog, and neutering the dog. Obviously, there's going to be people that are going to slide through the system, and there's people that'll abide by the system. Do I think this is over the top? Not necessarily. Not if I had a family member that was, mauled by a dog. I wouldn't think so. So I think they have every reason to ask for this. I'm not for government power. I don't like government power. Now, the people that really want to breed will still escape this. So that's why it doesn't apply to me that it's a harsh ban, because there's people still going to do underground stuff. It's always how it is. When anything's illegal, people still do it. You're not supposed to speed, people still do it. You're not supposed to steal, people still do it. So the people will find ways to breed. The reporter here is describing what you would say is a guardian breed. It's not necessarily an American Bully to the standard. But from what maybe the description is they protect people. Well, that's a guardian breed. That shouldn't be the American Bully, the happy-go-lucky family dog. Happy-go-lucky family dog doesn't mean he protects you. That means he's a happy-go-lucky family dog. And when you start having different traits in dogs, you start having unpredictable behavior. You need to have consistency. The third video here, and the final video, is, I guess, the guy who's leading the bully ban. And what he discusses here is actually a sad but valid point. Pit bulls were not allowed to be imported into the United Kingdom, but in 2015 they started importing bullies because they were technically another breed. Well, from 2015 to 2018 is when they started seeing attacks. And now we're in 2023, and you've seen, they said, the most attacks that England has ever seen has been from these American bullies, which is sad because the dogs have only been in the country from 2015. That means if they came in as a puppy in 2015, you would have started seeing problems about 2016 at a year, and then they would have evolved by 18, because they would have been fully matured. By that point, you would have figured out what kind of dogs you guys got. Now, the aggressive ones probably got bred, and then they had more puppies. So this is an evolving problem. This is very interesting that this is what he's saying and the dates, and it kind of makes sense. Now, he also states that Killer Kimbo was in a lot of these breedings. And this is one dog that apparently has been bred all over the world and has exhibited a lot of aggression. And I think Killer Kimbo has killed someone. And genetically, he throws those genes all around. So if one dog in the pedigree has been bred multiple times in different litters, he is going to potentially throw some of those genes. There could be a good chance that the dogs that were doing these random attacks potentially had all Killer Kimbo blood in them, some form. Maybe that would be some kind of test. But I'm sure a lot of these dogs were not bred pedigree, properly bred. They weren't papered. So I guess we'll never know. And now we all have to suffer because of Killer Kimbo. The reason why shepherds aren't generally banned is because when they bite, they're somewhat predictable. Most shepherds are predictable. They'll growl, they'll do this, they'll do that. Whereas a confident bully, sometimes they just don't give a warning. Sometimes they're wagging their tail. And you think that that means that it's a friendly dog. I had a Dutch Shepherd here, all black. He was known for biting people. He would wag his tail. But if you looked at his face and his eyes, if he didn't know you, he did not look like a friendly dog. He was not saying, hey, come see me. He was saying, keep your distance. He would fan his tail. But we, as people, don't really understand how these dogs think. We think we know. A dog wagging his tail means he's happy, he wants to get pet. No, there's a whole bunch of demeanors that you need to look out for. Body dispositioning, the way they put their body, the way their ears set, the way their eyes are, with the intensity in their eyes. Are they wiggle bum? Are they wagging their tail? These are all things that we need to think about. But shepherds generally will show how they feel, whereas American bullies, from what I've seen, and pits, can more on a dime change. But these aren't the good versions. These are the ones that, to me, are shitty bred. But I have seen it where they get stiff out of nowhere, they see something out of dominance, and they'll attack.
And those shapes are just different enough to not count as a pit bull in around 2015. And then, of course, they were imported quite a lot in 2018. And by the time they start hitting age of majority, 3 years old, 2021, we start seeing them reflected in the fatalities. And since then, they've been responsible for not only 70%, but in 2022, the largest single year on record of deaths to dogs in this country ever.
Why do they turn? She says hers never have, and we have to take her word for that, but they do turn. Why?
It's really difficult. It depends on the different situations. I mean, the Birmingham attack, for instance, was triggered by an 11-year-old girl running past a dog. So really
That was the attack a couple of weeks ago, where the girl, I think, was bitten on the arm.
Yes.
And she said that she thought that they should be banned. And in fact, it was in the wake of that attack that you successfully got the ban, you know, approved by the Prime Minister.
Well, the footage there also shows that this dog wasn't responding to being scared or frightened or beaten or anything like this, and it was chasing after people. There's also the case that 50% of dogs in this country, 50% of American bullies in this country appear to come from Killer Kimbo, one single highly inbred version of this dog. It's so inbred it has the same great-grandfather 4 times over. These are fighting dogs bred originally from fighting stock. And so we shouldn't be surprised if they act in that
so
way.
what do you say? I mean, Catherine's still there. They're at Bossy Kennels, and, you know, the dog is simply playful, but it's a massive dog. But what do you say when Catherine says, you know, of the hundreds that she's responsible for over in this country, she doesn't know of one that has turned on its owner or attacked anybody? It is not the dog's problem. It is not the owners that she's dealing with. It must be other owners who are doing the wrong thing, not looking after their dogs properly.
So if it was the owner, you would expect we wouldn't have several of those who have died were experienced dog handlers. For example, these were not people who we would expect to be a textbook example of someone we might call a bad owner. They were either owners of kennels or experienced dog handlers like dog walkers, etc. This isn't what we would expect to see. If it was the owner, you would expect to see many different large breeds reflected. For example, you can't find, despite weighing 80 kilos, you cannot find a Great Dane that's killed someone in the UK ever.
That's a really significant point. Catherine, there are equally big dogs, perhaps even bigger, but they're not responsible for the maulings and deaths that dog type is, your dog type is.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying 100%. But I have to kind of revert back to the point that, is he saying that this dog could turn on me at any second and it's going to? Because I would challenge anybody to come out here and you couldn't get this dog to do something aggressive. So you have to kind of look at, okay, then what is the problem? If you ban XL bullies, just like Pitbulls were banned or the next breed, it's just going to be another breed. Another breed is going to make the top of the list, right? And the wrong people are going to get those dogs, do the wrong things with them, and then are you going to ban that breed and then the next breed and the next breed and so on and so forth? There are other powerful, strong dog breeds. I understand that Great Danes may not, but there are other powerful, strong dog breeds like this that people will get if they want to get them as a fashion accessory or they want to get these dogs for the wrong reasons. They will get them. This ban punishes the responsible owners. It doesn't hold the irresponsible people accountable for their actions.
Although, as you were saying, Dr. Lawrence Newport, a lot of those who are victims are actually responsible dog owners. They're not who you might consider irresponsible, who'd bred their dogs perhaps or trained them to fight.
Or their children.
It's also the case that it took 25 years, nearly 30 years to breed a dog of this level of danger. And, in fact, our Pitbull ban has been highly successful. We've had very low fatalities. The only time we've had a huge spike is when we let in another Pitbull variant, the American Bully.
Catherine.
The reporter speaks about a girl who was running and the dog in public, and the dog grabbed her. Now, why did this dog attack? Well, maybe the girl was in her space. A girl was in the dog's space. That would be guardian instinct territory. Maybe the dog seen something moving, fast-paced, as prey drive. Now the dog's attacking in prey drive. Maybe the dog's seen her as a threat. But these are all things that shouldn't happen, right? The little girl running, kids run. People do stupid shit. People run, people jump, people scream. You know, the dog can't react to that. This is stability, once again. You don't see a kid running and the dog goes and runs and chases after a girl and attacks them because they're in their vicinity. That's not stability to me. So I don't know if that dog was socialized, if that dog saw that as prey drive, a prey item. Did that dog see that as a defensive mechanism, or did that dog see that you're coming into my space and it's my territory? Regardless, if I had to guess, that dog would probably be about 3 years old, 2.5, and the owner probably never saw that behavior until they started maturing. That would be my guess. But I don't know. We don't know the facts. I would like to know how many of these attacks were males, how many were females. I would like to know a bunch of things to kind of narrow things down as a training perspective to see, but we don't have these details. The reporter also brings up a valid point, which I hate, but it's a valid point, that some of these dogs kill their handlers. And these weren't normal pet owners. These weren't beginner pet owners that just decided to get an American Bully. These were pet owners that were trainers. How good of trainers were they? Were they training the dog because the dog was aggressive? Did they rescue the dog, or did they have the dog from puppy and never saw it? We don't know. But if I had to guess, I would say they were trying to rehabilitate these dogs, and they had seen some of this already. I don't think this was just random, but I don't know. But to say that it was just the owners, once again, if these are trainers, it shouldn't be, because they should be very knowledgeable and they should know how to deal with these dogs. So here's another question mark. And it leads me back to the thought that these dogs, particularly the ones, obviously the ones that attack, not all, are unpredictable and unstable. This is a breeder in America, and obviously she loves her dogs, and she probably sticks to her breeding schedule, to her dogs, and she seems like she knows her dogs. But her statements are somewhat ignorant because she acts like she doesn't know that this happens. If she doesn't know that this happens, then you're not really understanding your dog, or you're not paying attention to what's going on. If you're just talking about your own dogs being good, I understand that. My own dogs are good too. But if you act like you don't know that this is a problem, that shows ignorance to me. She says her dogs will never show aggression ever. How do you know? Have you ever trained them? Have you ever put them in an unpredictable situation? How do we know that? We don't know that. Do the dogs look friendly? Yes. Does she look like she cares about her dogs? Yes. But you're not a trainer. You haven't put them in unpredictable situations. Maybe you are lucky and you're sticking to good breedings and you don't have any bad dogs in your lineage. But it's kind of ignorant to say that it's the owners, it's not the dogs. In maybe your situation, it's not the dogs. But what about the breed itself? Because they are mutts, which are XL bullies. So those are mutts too. There could be some unpredictability if you put them in the right situation. Hopefully there's not, and I'd like to assume that this breeder knows what she's doing, but I do see signs of negligent thinking because it doesn't really have a training background, and I don't think if you don't have a training background in dogs or dogs' behavior and you're only basing your opinions on what you see, how do you know what you're producing? If you're not keeping what you produce in every litter per se, then how do you know? You're banking on the owners to tell you that the dogs are good? Owners don't always check in. You're banking on that the owners aren't breeding the dogs to other dogs? I mean, these are all questions. But I feel like she actually cares about her dogs and she cares about the breed, but there's no knowledge behind training. To say that the dog will never do this and never do that, we don't know that because you haven't put in the time to train the dog to see. Because I'm sure I could light that dog up.
It's the owners of the guns. Would you agree that there's a strong parallel between the gun lobby argument and your argument?
No, I mean, I wouldn't agree. I wouldn't compare these dogs to guns. Again, it's so funny that there's so many experts in these dogs, but they haven't put their hands on the dogs like I have. They're not the dogs that I know and I have the experience with. So, no, I don't think these dogs are similar to guns. I think the problem here is irresponsible owners of these dogs getting dogs for the wrong reasons. And if it's not the bully, if it's not the Pitbull, it's going to be the American Bulldog. It's going to be the Cane Corso. It's going to be the Mastiff. It's going to be the Doberman Pinscher. And you're going to have to ban all of those breeds. Because if there was a problem with this breed, there are over 100,000 of these dogs in England. You would see a lot more issues, a lot more than what you're seeing. And
all right, Catherine.
I can only speak with the dogs that I know and experience. I can't speak with these dogs that are doing these things. I don't have the knowledge of what the circumstances that surround them are. But I can tell you that my experience with these dogs, and it's not limited, it's far extensive beyond,
all right,
with due respect, the announcers and beyond the guy doing the research.
Catherine,
and I've yet to have
Catherine, we're out of time. Thank you very much for staying up so late in LA to be with us at our breakfast time.
Yeah,
when will the change in the law come in this country?
The truth is, she has limited knowledge, according to her specific dogs. And if she's outcrossing dogs to other lines to change genetic pools, then she's going to have inconsistencies. And if you're not proving those dogs by training them and putting them in unpredictable situations and uncomfortable situations, how do you know what you're breeding? And then you say that it's all the owners. It's not the dogs. How do you know that? You never put the dogs in uncomfortable situations. And are you keeping dogs from every litter to assess? Because that's what you should be doing as a breeder. And by assessing them, I mean training them and putting them through rigorous training to see what you're breeding. That's what I would be doing. Not knocking anyone. Nobody's perfect. I'm sure her dogs are beautiful and loving. They look loving. She looks like she cares. But this is the truth. People don't like to hear the truth. But if we're going to fix the problem, we can't fix it with emotion. We have to fix it with logic. Emotion doesn't fix things. Thinking that your husband is amazing and he tried to stab you yesterday doesn't mean that, that's the right thing to do. You have to think logically. So I hope you guys learned something from this video. I hope I made some valid points. I hope it was entertaining. And I wasn't doing this video to, hurt anybody's feelings or throw shade on anyone. That wasn't my goal here. My goal here is to give knowledge, potentially my opinion, to people and open up their eyes to the reality of what and why and how we could potentially fix this problem. I don't think this has a lot to do with the owners per se. It definitely, when you buy one of these dogs or any dog in general, you need to have training. You need to be responsible. You need to have structure. That's across the board with any dog, especially guardian breeds. And you need to be, on top of your dog. But if the dog is unstable or the dog's too hot to handle or bred, scatterbred, well, you're not giving the owners a fair chance. You're giving the owners a dog that's unpredictable and not what they wanted. You are selling them essentially a Honda Civic or a van with a Corvette motor. And you're hoping that they know how to drive it. And you're hoping that all that horsepower doesn't kick in. This is a problem. So I hope you guys learned something. I hope this opened up your eyes, and I hope we can have a discussion about it. You can leave comments in the video, and I'm more than likely to take any feedback and criticism, because I'm sure there will be some. Nothing I'm saying is from the Bible. Nothing I'm saying is 100%. It's my opinion based on what I see from me training dogs, breeding dogs, competing with dogs, and going all over and seeing dogs. And what I see happening in the UK. This is where I get my conclusion. Could I be wrong? Of course. Do I have an answer for the fix? No, but I would say that the people breeding these dogs need to be very responsible for these dogs. People breeding need to be more responsible. Banning the dogs is not really going to fix breeding. People are going to go underground and breed. Now, having more restrictions is going to make people think twice about getting the breed, but banning the breed is not really going to stop anything, right? We need to be more stringent on our breeders, and the breeders need to be responsible. I think if a breeder knew that they could get charged if their dog attacks someone or something like that, or gets sued, then there would be a little more caution into doing what they're doing. But that would be my take on it. I don't know how it's going to go. I wish you guys the best. I hope everybody does well, and I hope nobody else gets hurt. And I love these dogs. I love the Pitbulls, and I love the bullies. The bullies are a good bully, a sweet bully is an amazing dog. It's what it should be, a chilled out version of the American Pit Bull Terrier, and with a little more body and a little more goofy. That's how they should be. That's how they were. But this aggression and this kind of stuff, would I want a bully? Personally, no. I wouldn't want one. There's too many variables in the American bully. So I leave you guys with that. Leave your comments and concerns in the bottom, and we can have a discussion. And don't be a piece of shit. Stay bulletproof.